What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Generation Zero. For today, I've put together a list of the fastest and most efficient safe houses for looting and farming. My goal of this video is to have 9 locations you can hit up in the span of a single daylight period of GZ to maximize your farming efforts and stock you up for literal days in the game. This list will not be including any bunkers in it, so if you dudes want to see a list of the best bunkers for farming, let me know in the comments down below. But with the intro out of the way, and the day just freshly starting here in game, let's see if this list will live up to the challenge I've made. So we're going to start off this list off at Kalkbrottet or Viscanets Borg. This is an excellent location off in the Alvaret Plains up in the north coast. You'll want to start off fast traveling to the safe house off at Kalkbrottet in order to make your way off to the Viscanets Borg, kind of castle ruins area. It's just a short jog out from the safe house. You have to make your way over this hill, and I find the most efficient way to get up to Viscanets Borg really quickly is up the right side, up along this hill, and then you can kind of just hop over the wall at one of the cracks in it. This area is littered with dead soldiers, and next week I plan on putting together a video on the loot tables in the game, but dead soldiers are one of the most valuable resources, and dead bodies in general are some of the most valuable resources of loot in Generation Zero. From them you can get top tier ammo, you can get rare ammo, and also you can get yourself health kits, radios, and so many other resources. Dead bodies are genuinely some of the best things for you to loot in this game. Alongside the dead soldiers and the bodies you can loot, there's also this excellent little campground here where you can find yourself a handful of little ammo containers and the larger green boxes that contain a variety of resources inside of them. All in all, Viscanets Borg is one of my favorite places to loot in this game, just simply due to the amount of resources you get and the fact that it takes probably around like 5 to 7 minutes to go through this area. You wind up getting a lot in return for the time you spend here. Now let's move on to our next location here that has actually been greatly improved as of the Alpine Unrest DLC. The next location on the list is Lennarts Marin AB. This is a great location that has been improved tenfold as of the Alpine Unrest DLC. Just like Viscanets Borg, this area is littered with soldiers and also includes a different body type that you can loot that has an even further loot table than the soldiers themselves, the resistance members. These guys are even better, in my personal finding, than the soldiers themselves when it comes to reliably dropping rare ammo types, health kits, and adrenaline, and all of the resources that you're going to need in this game. Alongside that, there is a little military building that you can go into for even more resources at Lennarts Marin. And even though loot boxes generate randomly per player's world, in the end, these green military buildings are some of the most reliable buildings to hit up for the ammo caches and the big green military boxes outside of places like bunkers. So you'll always want to be exploring these buildings and memorizing where these loot boxes are contained. Then, just to make this place even better, there is a military truck, and again, the military trucks are just as good as the military buildings when it comes to reliably having these large containers of resources. For any of you that haven't hit up Lennarts Marin yet, it is just on the eastern side of the forest region here. Now for the next location, Klint. For next up, we're coming off to Klint City. We're going to be traveling to the church in Klint and kind of starting our route from here. So Klint itself can be divided into kind of two sections. You have the harbor, and then you have the city of Klint. Both of these locations are incredibly useful spots for loot, and you'll notice throughout this list that a lot of the locations that I've got included here are harbors themselves. But as of the January update, cities also got kind of an overhaul, in which case houses now reliably will have medkits and radios in them, further improving their use to you as the player with the loot and resources that they'll give you. Now, the harbor offers two benefits to it. One being the little military buildings that are established around it, as well as the military trucks, but then there's also shipping crates that you can find and loot. Shipping crates are great and are actually incredibly useful locations to hit up for getting a lot of loot boxes in a small vicinity. There also are a handful of small parking garages that you can find really close and clustered together here, and those equally will be great sources of loot because you'll be able to loot the toolboxes and the various ammo stashes that you'll find inside of them. Klint also has this nice little gas station with a bunch of cars around it, and cars are actually really great spots to go looting because cars a lot of times will contain backpacks in them, and backpacks a lot of times will carry adrenaline or medkits or flares if you decide to use those as your kind of utility items. As well, a lot of times in the trunk and in the back seats you'll be able to find little ammo caches and little ammo storage boxes. Now, Klint happens to be one of the slower places on this list, coming in at about 12 minutes to go through, because you can really deliberate yourself into going through these buildings and picking up all of these simple medkits. But in the end, I highly advise that you dudes go through and pick up as many simple medkits as you can, because from the sounds of things, this will be removed in the February update. So definitely get it while it's hot and collect all the simple medkits you can. So for our number 6 spot, we're coming off to Kaptensvillan for the Nyhamnen Port. That's hard to say with my Canadian accent. But this is an excellent area, again, because as all ports are, they are littered with shipping containers, and the shipping containers, as I said before with Klint, will have a large amount of loot boxes for you to get that are all within a very close vicinity to one another. This is an excellent location to go to for farming up med kits, for farming up utilities, and for farming up a whole bunch of ammo as well, because a lot of times these shipping containers will have ammo boxes and the medium-sized kind of storage boxes where you can find even more resources within them. And on top of this being a great place to loot, there's something really satisfying about getting into a good flow of opening up all of these shipping crates and going through them all, which just kind of adds to the benefit of keeping your farming interesting and limiting how monotonous it can be. Another nice little thing about this location and most harbors in the game is that you can find these fun little parkour setups where you can climb your way up to the top just to get a little bit extra loot. Nihomann also has these great little moving trucks, and moving trucks, again, just like the military trucks, are really good sources of reliable loot. You can a lot of times find toolboxes inside of them and the small little ammo containers as well. Nyhamnen is my personal favorite place to go farming car batteries in specific. Now for our number 5 spot, we're coming off to Hastvik for the Saltholmen naval bunker. Getting into this bunker is really easy from Hastvik. All you gotta do is kind of jog along this little marsh area and just take a bit of a leap of faith off of the cliff edge just outside of this little port entrance here. And what will happen is the kind of water teleportation will place you onto the closest available bit of land, which happens to be just inside the port. Inside of Saltholmen, you will find a whole bunch of rooms with incredibly good loot boxes containing reliable 7.62 ammunition. And if any of you dudes have gone off and farmed up the 5-star LMGs, you'll know that the 59 is a beast of a gun, but it absolutely chews through your 7.62. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to come to a place here on the starter island where 7.62 is readily available. You'll be able to find it on all of the dead soldiers and in almost all of the ammo cases. So really, in the end, the Saltholmen naval bunker is one of the best places you can go to on the archipelago in order to obtain tons and tons of 7.62. Sometimes you'll find that the enemies have also respawned inside of this place. I'm not sure if this is entirely intended to be a sure spawn location, but having these reliable enemies to farm up in your process of going through and looting this entire bunker is a huge benefit, actually, because enemies have a very small and precise loot table to them. But again, we'll be talking about all of that stuff in my video next week. So after you're done inside of the bunker, you'll want to go outside to the port area because, again, just as usual, all of the ports in Generation 0 are your best friend when it comes to reliable loot. This one doesn't have the same amount of shipping containers as Nyhamnen or anything like that, but what it does have is ample dead soldier corpses for you to go through and loot up and pick up all of the 7.62 that you're going to need in order to keep your LMG stocked. So for the fourth location on this list, we are coming off to Himfall Island, off to Osterhallan City. Osterhallan is usually protected by a small pack of doggos and maybe a couple hunters, but taking care of the doggos is nice and easy, and dealing with the hunter is pretty easy as well because Osterhallan Church is an excellent point to fight enemies from. Osterhallan is a sick location to go farming resources because you will find so many resistance bodies in this area. And again, resistance bodies are great sources of excellent loot and just like health kits and all the stuff you're going to need. As well, there's a small city section so you can get yourself a bunch of reliable, simple med kits in this area as well. And then just past the small little city section of Osterhallan, you'll be able to find a military outpost at the destroyed bridge. And here you'll be able to find a bunch of dead soldiers to loot, another one of these small green military buildings, and then some military trucks as well to go through. And then just a little bit north of Osterhallan is Vrakudden camping ground. And this area, again, is just filled with resistance members and also has a bunch of really kind of unique loot situations. You'll be able to find a bunch of military buildings and military camping tents set up around here, and you'll be able to find a lot of dead bodies inside of the RVs around this camping ground as well. And then another thing that you'll be able to find in these RVs are loot suitcases. Loot cases? Dang it. Suitcases, in which case suitcases are one of the most reliable sources of loot for medkits. They're my personal favorite thing to go to when I'm trying to farm up a whole bunch of standard medkits because you can find them so commonly inside the suitcases. And then at the far end of the campground, you'll be able to find this quaint little setup of tents over here with some really spooky floating medkits. But this campground is really awesome. Inside of these tents, you have the chance of having resources spawn and the medium-sized loot crates and the ammo caches spawn. So inside of this cool little like greenhouse type tent, you'll be able to find at least a couple loot boxes, and then over in this tent as well, you'll be able to find a whole bunch of loot boxes. Again, though, loot container spawning is kind of randomized between worlds, so you might find a few less, or you might even find more loot cases in this tent. But again, this entire Vrakudden camping ground is an excellent spot to go looting. And staying on the theme of Himfall Island, we're coming over to the Bjortunet Hotel in order to do some medkit farming. This place is the ultimate location in the entire map for medkit farming. You'll be able to find the Bjortunet Hotel just kind of on the eastern side of Himfall Island if you haven't really gone into the Himfall DLC just yet. But I highly advise that you do if you haven't yet, because Himfall is excellent. So inside of Bjortunet, you're going to find so many of these suitcases. And as I was saying with the campgrounds earlier, the suitcases are the most reliable loot box to contain medkits in them, and especially standard medkits. So in the end, Bjortunet Hotel, having the most suitcases in the entire map, also will yield the most medkits in the entire map. Now, Bjortunet Hotel, again, is kind of on the slower side of the locations here. It can take anywhere from like 10 to 12 minutes to go through this entire hotel and loot up all the suitcases. But in the end, the return that you get on medkits is totally worth your time. As well, you can find adrenaline really, really reliably inside of these suitcases if you happen to go through a lot of adrenaline. But on that subject, there also happens to be the single adrenaline shot over here that is actually a respawning adrenaline shot. But another YouTuber by the name of Wired Gaming already made a video on this, so I don't really need to talk about it too much. But definitely go check out his video if you want to farm that single adrenaline shot reliably. As well, there are a handful of toolboxes around here, and toolboxes can give you all the way up to the advanced first aid kits. So you definitely want to be hitting up all of the toolboxes alongside the suitcases to maximize the amount of med kits that you're going to be earning. Outside of the Bjortunet Hotel, there is another one of these little green military buildings, and inside of this building, you'll be able to find a handful of dead bodies that you can then go through and loot in order to obtain a decent little supply of ammunition in the middle of this run. And don't forget to hit up the dead resistance body and the military truck out back of Bjortunet while you're farming here as well. Again, to just give you a little bit more ammunition in the run. So I managed to get something like 40 simple medkits, about 10 to 12 standard medkits, and a whole bunch of advanced medkits in just one single run through of this hotel. If that doesn't say that this is the best place to go in the map for the medkits, then I don't know what will. So for our second last location that we're going to be hitting up today, we're going off to Torsberga Fort. Torsberga Fort is on the southernmost tip of the south coast region. So Torsberga Fort is an excellent area to go farming and has been my personal favorite location to go farming ever since I found out about it in the first place and got to Torsberga Fort for the mission that you actually do here. I think that I've come back to Torsberga Fort more than I've even hit up all of the bunkers in the map. So over in Torsberga Fort, you can find a little storage area with a bunch of shipping containers inside of them. And in these shipping containers, you can find a whole bunch of reliable ammunition, and then reliable med kits and all of that great stuff, as I said before, with it all being in a very close vicinity and proximity to one another. The other really nice thing about Torsberga Fort is that you get a very even blend of 7.62 and 5.56 ammunition. So if you're like me and you like using both of those types of ammunition in the game, this is an excellent spot to come to in order to farm up both of those ammunition types reliably, quickly, and efficiently. As well, Torsberga Fort has a huge collection of dead soldiers that you can loot, and again, the dead soldiers are just a great source of not only your standard types of ammo, but also the armor-piercing variants as well. So a lot of times you'll be able to keep your armor-piercing ammunition stocked based off of dead soldiers. We're running out of daylight here, as you can see, the sun's setting in the game, but I feel like we'll be able to hit up the rest of our locations here. So the next one is one of these green buildings just out here in the kind of main thoroughway of Torsberga Fort, and these buildings are excellent. I've been talking about it since the beginning of the game. These guys will offer you pretty much all of the ammo you'll need. Sometimes they'll even offer rare ammo types that you could barely find in the game, like EMP rounds for your rocket launcher and stuff. So those green pill buildings are excellent. As well, in the thoroughway here, you'll be able to find a handful of military trucks with toolboxes and ammo cases inside of them. And then at the far end over here, you'll also be able to find a little military outpost building. And inside of the military outpost building, again, you'll be able to find a lot of military ammo crates. So Torsberga's excellent because it doesn't just have one of those pillbox buildings, it's got two. So that means that you have double the opportunity to find a whole bunch of rare ammo types and also large collections of your typical ammo as well. And again, Torsberga Fort just doubles down on you. So not only do you have the bunker off to the left, which houses all of the artillery stations, but you have a bunker off to the right, which houses all of the power generators. So in the bunker with all of the power generators, you'll be able to find a whole bunch of military trucks and military buildings to loot. As well, you'll be able to find a white building, a white little container building, and we'll be talking about that in our last area. But then also on top of that, there is probably about, I think, 4 or 5 dead soldiers in this area that you can additionally loot for all of your ammo needs, for grenades and radios and all of that good stuff. So again, Torsberga can be a little bit on the slower side, but it's only maybe about 15 minutes to go through this place, and those 15 minutes are absolutely well spent because you have so many ammo containers and so many great resources to loot up. And so down in the power generator area itself, you'll be able to find a whole bunch of the medium-sized boxes where you can get tons of grenades and landmines and health kits and all of that great stuff. And then there's also a dead soldier on the left hand side, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that soldier loot. I really feel like if I were in this whole Generation Zero scenario, Torsberga Fort would be one of the main places that I would go to in order to find resources if this were a real-life situation. And I think that that kind of ties into why I got so much love for Torsberga Fort. But then on top of that as well, it is just a great location in the game for you to go off and do all of the farming that you need to. And now for our number one spot, Muskodden Port. Muskodden Port is easily the best location in the map to hit up in terms of time spent and resources gained. Muskodden Port is a very small military base, but in the end, the amount of resources that you wind up obtaining from this place are so worth your time. Now, when you come to Muskodden, you will have to clear out a little bit of riffraff around this area, but doing so is incredibly profitable. These guys drop tons of 5.56 ammunition, so you'll want to use an Automat Yavar 5 against them, or the KVM 89 against them, just to make sure that you're earning back the resources that you're spending on them. As well, they'll be able to drop 50 cal ammo, and that again is just incredibly useful for farming, because again, it can be a little difficult farming up 50 cal ammo sometimes, and so having a reliable source of 50 cal ammo is just an excellent thing to have in this game. And then on top of that, you'll be able to get standard medkits and large EMPs from these guys. And again, these resources are incredibly useful, even though you probably have more medkits than you need at this point after hitting up Bjortunet. Still, having the extra medkits to throw into the mix is just incredibly beneficial. When you get to the kind of late game play of Generation Zero, medkits become much more valuable than adrenaline do, just because the medkits will keep you fighting for longer. Whereas the adrenalines will be kind of like a last-ditch resort for you. So again, just going through and taking out all of these hunters with these sniper attachments is in your best bet before you start farming this place, because that way you won't have anything interrupting your farming session. As well, I'm not too sure what was going on with this guy here, but he was having a hard time with this store. Again though, these military hunters with the 50 cal are excellent sources of 5.56 and 50 cal ammo, so you definitely want to hit these guys up first, just to keep things simple while you're running through Muskodden Port, and also to get that extra little kick of ammunition in the process. So again, for the newer players, if you haven't been to Muskodden yet, you can find it just south of Klint, and there actually is a mission going along with Muskodden, just like with Torsberga Fort. So when farming this place, the moment you fast travel to the safe house, you're greeted with a little ammo container right there, and you'll kind of want to go through the top floor before you start going through the lower areas of the bunker itself. In the top floor, you can find two rooms, two military rooms that have a couple medium boxes or whatever has spawned into your world. And then to get the farming session started off proper, you'll want to come down to this little commune area and hit up the little bedrooms and stuff, and you'll be able to find some decent loot down in this kind of section of Muskodden. And then you'll want to kind of hit up the green room along your way before you head down into the port section. Down in the port section, you'll be able to find a couple more military buildings, each with their own loot inside of them. And you can find actually advanced medkits really easily in Muskodden, so Muskodden is definitely one of the main places you want to go to outside of the bunkers if you're aiming to farm up a lot of advanced medkits. Then as well, there's these two kind of larger chambers, each housing one of these white pillbox buildings. And in these pillbox buildings, just like back at Torsberga Fort, you can get some really good loot from these buildings. A lot of times they'll have little weapon crates inside of them if you need any of the attachments or are looking for some low tier weapons that don't require any sort of tank farming or harvester farming. And then also you'll be able to find a lot of the medium and small little ammo cases inside of them, and those will yield tons of really great loot. And then outside in the port proper, you'll be able to find one of these green locked buildings, and also you'll be able to find a military outpost building. And both of these buildings will yield a decent amount of loot. So there you guys go, just as nighttime's falling here in the game. So I think that that is a challenge complete. I have managed to find 9 locations that you can hit up in the span of one single day, one single daylight period here in Generation Zero, that you can farm really quickly and really efficiently and get an absurd amount of loot from in order to keep yourself stocked and fighting the machines for days to come. So, if you guys want, you could take this entire list completely verbatim. It's going to be in the description below for your own farming routes. Or maybe I potentially showed some locations you hadn't considered for your own personal farming routes that you can throw into the mix just to kind of improve your farming routes. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. But thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.